Hi, if you're new here, my name is Elaine, and on my channel I like to talk about bags from mid-range to vintage luxury. And today I'm going to be doing a quick review of the small Bottega Veneta Andiamo bag. And so this bag I rented from Switch, which is the accessories rental company. I've talked about it in a couple other videos. And like I said in those, this is unsponsored, nor was the membership gifted. I do pay about $220 a month to borrow these bags. So the Andiamo is actually, it's the hot bag of, I don't know, 2024, 2025. And I do love Bottega Veneta, so I was interested in trying it out. I did try it out in store once, and I was pretty close to buying it, but I think at that time the small was still pretty expensive. I want to say it was like over $4,000, which I really wasn't ready to spend yet. I think that was when I bought this one. So this is the Wallace bag. I got this one for $2,300, around there. I was like, I'll spend $2,300, but I'm not willing to spend over $4,000. So I'm happy to have this right now to borrow. I have been using it for a bit, so all my stuff is in here, and so I can tell you my thoughts on it. I can also show you all the wear and tear that this bag has gone through, because let me tell you, I think this bag has been on constant rental, and so there is quite a bit of wear and tear, but also it was kind of hard to get. And I have to say, these are both modern Bottegas, but they're at the high end and low end, so they're very different in terms of leather choice. And right off the bat, I could tell that the Andiamo leather choice is a lot more like the vintage Bottega choices. When you compare it to the Wallace has like calf skin. It's like very thin calf skin. And so when you start looking at like the corners here where it starts to wrinkle, you can tell that the quality of this leather is not great. I used it for a bit, but I haven't used it for a while. Versus this bag is definitely on the higher end. You can tell that this leather is much thicker, and also it's just a lot softer and smushier, which is nice. So I do think Bottega kind of differentiates the high end versus the low end within their own catalog, and saves the best leather, of course, for the higher end items. Also, from what I remember, there is a certificate of, I don't want to say certificate of care. I always get this wrong. I'll put it down on the screen, but it is basically a warranty that allows you to take back your Bottega Veneta at any time throughout the lifetime of the bag to get it repaired, because it is one of the higher end bags. So first, I'll just start off with what's in the bag. I found it easiest to kind of organize everything in just one compartment. So I organized it in the front: phone, wallet, mini mom pouch, sunglasses case, and my little Zumoni organizer with all my little things that I need. And the sunscreen has fallen out. And then in the back here, I just kept a receipt. So it can fit actually quite a bit, and I'm sure you'll see other, I'm sure there's a ton of videos out there telling you what fit. Probably fits a mini iPad, probably won't fit, a regular iPad, so on and so forth. Pretty sure this is the small size. The nice thing I can tell you is that this bag has really been worn, and I can show you where all the wear and tear happens. So first and foremost, of course, it is the cord that goes through. You're doing this so many times, so many times a day. So it's just a matter of time where you're going to start seeing the abrasions on the soft leather. So there's quite a bit. So basically it turns this light green bag, this light green cord, a slight brownish color. I think it's like a light brown leather underneath. Also, this hardware is quite tarnished. Probably not, you could just use a little bit of Blue Magic to get rid of that, but yes, that's quite tarnished. And the mechanism itself is not the smoothest now that it's quite worn. I also see on the actual body of the bag, the edges of the weave, starting to see some darkness from where, it rubs up against the body, or maybe color transfer, but it's really the edges that kind of like are raised a little bit more, and that's what's picking up the dirt. And then of course the corners are going to be the most fragile, and especially on a leather this soft, there's going to be quite a bit of corner wear. I can also see some abrasions on the bottom here. No feet, so you know, my Wallace has feet, which is nice. So at least it sits off the ground. But this Andiamo, which is priced almost double, does not. And this is a much more fragile, smooshier leather, so really it should have feet. Other sort of wear and tear as I see is on the edges here where the leather edging is. On the top here where the weave meets, they're starting to have cracks. Quite bad actually. So I'm not sure if that's just what it is at the top where basically where the strips of leather are meeting and then that's splitting. The handle itself is a little smushy from where inside is just leather. Bottega Veneta, Italy on the bottom. Inside of this bag actually doesn't look too bad. It's really mostly the cord and the top that I feel like is the most egregious, and of course the corners. So overall, after using this bag, so I'll do some mod shots, but the crossbody version is way too long for me. On my 5'4" frame, it really hangs down below my hip. It doesn't work for me. So I usually carry it like this at this point. It just easy on my shoulder. I do have to be careful sometimes. I don't like to have the metal part on the top, so I'll just kind of adjust the bag so that the metal part is near the bottom here, and then it's a very comfortable two-strap system. With just this amount of stuff in there, it's not heavy at all. It doesn't weigh down my shoulder. It doesn't hurt. I could see if you maybe had, you know, books in here, a bottle of water. If you did, especially if you did it as a crossbody single strap, this pressure of this one strap is definitely gonna cause some shoulder aches. Let me see. As for a bottle of water, it doesn't quite fit standing up. You will see a little bit of it. So yes, you could lie it down and then it would fit along with your stuff. So, I mean, I think a major complaint most of the time about the Andiamo is this middle pouch that's kind of annoying. Granted, if it's your own, you could just take it out and have one large compartment, which also works. So that's not a big deal. So would I buy the Andiamo bag? And yeah, I think I would. If I saw one on the resale market, on the secondhand market for a good price, in good condition, I would definitely consider it. I would even actually consider waiting, you know, even just another couple more years until the trends really die down, and then see if I can get one for a really good price. I do think it is a good bag. I think it's useful. I like the fact that it has this top handle, which makes it easy to grab and go, but also, you know, the two shoulder straps is a good system. Fits all my essentials. The bag itself is fairly light, even though the hardware is kind of heavy. I can do a quick weighing of the bag right now. So the bag weighs 1 pound, 4.2 ounces, which is, I think, is a good weight. I don't think that's too heavy. I think the majority of it is coming from the hardware for sure. The bag itself is very light because it is just unlined leather and, you know, with very minimal hardware, like no feet and just the rings here, the hardware rings where the strap passes through, and then of course the buckle. So yeah, definitely the buckle is the heaviest part here. Yeah, overall, I really like this bag. I know it's trendy, but I think Bottega in general is fairly timeless. And I also did bring out my two vintage Bottegas. Now I have two of these. I don't know if I showed this one to you guys yet, but anyways, it's a pink version of my favorite vintage Veneta. And I might as well just show you here the difference between a vintage weave and the current weave. Of course, the current weave is a lot thicker. It's a bigger check. But I have to say, in terms of the feel of the leather, I think this one is fairly comparable to the vintage one. And I actually really like this color, even though it's kind of like a muted green. I think it works well with a lot of other things. So I was actually planning to keep this bag over the weekend and really use it and enjoy it. But unfortunately, and this is not any fault of Bottega's, but this bag actually smells fairly bad. It smells a lot like perfume. So somebody else's perfume. I'm sure someone's had it for a really long time. Really thoroughly enjoyed it, but now it smells like perfume. It makes my desk area smell like perfume. It makes my hand smell like perfume. Yeah, and it's not like a perfume that I like. I think Switch especially for their popular bags, they kind of need to stop and reassess condition and smell before they just kind of throw it back into the pool of bags. Yeah, I've rented 4 or 5 bags now, and most of those bags are not the popular trendy ones. They're like obscure Hermes things that I've always wanted to try. Unfortunately, I'm going to return this bag sooner than I wanted to because I don't really want to use it if it smells bad. But yeah, I do actually really like the Andiamo, and like I said, I'd rather just wait until I can find it on the pre-loved market for a good price. And I think Bottegas in general are fairly timeless. So yeah, I think that's it. Let me know if you have any questions. If you like this video, I kindly ask that you give it a thumbs up. Or if you've seen other videos in the past, if you could consider subscribing, I'd greatly appreciate it since it really helps support this channel. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye!